Cool. There we go. All right, we're live.
All
What's
right.
up, guys? Welcome back. Oh man, we have a little bit earlier stream than usual tonight. Very excited. Another artist interview. Been waiting to talk to Bobby for a while. Bobby Hundreds, welcome.
Thanks, Blake. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely, man. So you guys probably have seen Bobby's work with the Tops. I think I loved what you did with Ken Griffey Jr. with all like making it a game and making them count the errors. I definitely want to talk about that tonight and go through those. But yeah, man, I'm pumped to have you. Also, co-founder of the Hundreds, huge in the kind of. I mean, you guys, like, is it fair to say like the Hundreds is kind of like a Supreme style kind of competitor type brand?
Yeah, I guess if you're speaking on it to a layman who genuinely doesn't care about fashion or streetwear, we would probably be in the vein of something like Supreme. But to call them a competitor, we're not even in the same galaxy. They are a huge piece of American culture at this point. You know, they're a world established, like billions and billions of dollars. James precedes us by at least a decade. He has an entirely different model. And so in that regard, we're completely disparate, two different brands. But just to like the average person who's just like, what's it like? I typically say, like, have you heard of a brand like Supreme or Stussy? The Hundreds is a brand like that. We've been around for 18 years.
It's awesome. That's awesome, man. And so that is you and how many other, like you and one other co-founder?
Yeah. My friend Ben. We started the brand when we were 23 years old. We were in law school.
I was just saying, you don't look old enough to have a brand that's 18 years old.
Yeah. 23 we started. I'm 41 now, which is wild. It just seems like yesterday that we started the company. But my friend Ben and I, we were in school. We were actually in law school. Neither of us wanted to be lawyers. We were there for different reasons. And in the middle of school, we also back then in 2001, not a lot of people were into this. We were collecting sneakers and like really heavy into the Nike Talk message board. We were in the first generation of Dunks that were resurging. And brands like Supreme, A-Life, Bathing Ape, Neighborhood, Double Taps, like the Japanese brands were really inspiring and intriguing to us. We're like, look, there's just not a lot of American kids doing this. It's very much driven by, there's not a lot of LA kids or California kids doing this. It was really driven by New York and Japan and London at the time. And we're like, we want to play, you know, we want to put our art onto t-shirts. And it really, you know, that generation of streetwear was really founded on the backs of artists, which a lot of people don't know. Also, they look at streetwear, they think of it as a fashion thing, but it was really about street artists, guys like Futura, Kaz, you know, Stash, Hayes. These are the guys who really built the house of streetwear. So I was like, hey, look, I'm an artist. No one really gets to see my work. It's not really out there in the galleries, or I can't get past the gatekeepers, which obviously can lead us down to a conversation about NFTs. But I just never wanted to play that game. You know, like the media was not paying attention to us, the magazines. We didn't have the money. You know, Ben and I were just bootstrapping this entire thing by ourselves. And I was just like, how can I get my art seen in a way that is accessible to someone like myself? It's like, well, if I put my illustrations and my designs and artwork on t-shirts, those will be walking billboards around the city. And that's how we built the brand. And I told story. I'm a writer also. If you can't tell already, I'm a storyteller. So I provided the context behind all the designs on our website.
Nice. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And Tops.
Yes.
So did tell us about a little bit about that. Like when Tops approached you, I would love to know, like, if you collected cards growing up, what you kind of thought when Tops approached you, and what's been your approach for the cards. I think 3 cards so far.
Yeah, I think we're about 3 cards in. I think maybe the Will Clark. I have a Will Clark coming out that hasn't been announced yet, but I think that's dropping next.
Nice.
Yeah. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so I was heavy into cards, especially baseball cards, and basketball cards kind of started a little bit later on, especially the popularity and swing around those with hoops and everything. But being a big baseball card collector, and for me, I've always been attracted to fringe, you know, to the marginal groups. And so even the music I listened to growing up, you know, I come from the punk and hardcore scene. I didn't listen to anything that was on the radio. I wasn't interested in anything mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play mainstream sports. I skateboarded and snowboarded and I surf. And so it's always been those kinds of extreme outlier interests that have appealed to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so even within the realm of card collecting, growing up, my older brother was obviously the one who got me into it. We always have the big brothers, the older cousins who kind of indoctrinate us into the game. And I was like really into it, but I was always attracted to the errors, because they were just weird and strange.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wrap my head around why, if this was messed up, why it was worth more. Well, there was rarity built into that, right? And so I think that was my first real dabbling with what limited edition was, the idea of rarity, the idea of something being strange and idiosyncratic is what made it better. And because I felt like I was that person, right? Like, I'm an Asian kid growing up in a Mexican neighborhood in a school that was predominantly white. I was into skateboarding. Everyone's into football. Like, people are listening to rap music. I'm like only listening to hardcore. So I already felt like I was a strange kid, different than everybody else. And I was looking at these cards going, man, these cards are kind of messed up, right? They are flawed and they are full of errors. And that's what people want because they are not, they go against the grain. Right. And so the error cards were the ones that I was super into. Obviously, everyone knows like the Billy Ripken, right? The fuckface card is the one that people most remember. But, I just remembered like really obscure things. There was like a Gary Sheffield upper deck card, and the shortstop, the SS, was like flipped upside down. And it was just like a really subtle, weird thing. And it always made you wonder, how do these errors even happen? Like that part of it was so curious to me. Right. And so very perplexed about like, how do they even happen? The fact that they happen, that we catch on to it. And so then that became a game of searching through cards and finding more or less mediocre players that had like really interesting narratives and stories tied into them because some part of their card was wrong. Like the stripe is orange instead of white. Like, how did they mess that up? Right. And are they now doing it intentionally because Beckett is grading the cards appropriately because there's an error next to it. And so, that's what, for me, that's what that was my foundation for card collecting growing up. And I think as I became older as an artist, wow.
Brooklyn, man. It's insane.
Yeah.
It never stops.
I love it. I'm actually at home. I'm usually at my office and it's kind of loud, but I came home for the interview. But
where do you live? You're in LA still.
I'm in LA. I live near Venice here in LA, and we work down in Vernon, which is past downtown, southeast of Los Angeles. Yeah. Nice.
And where did you grow up? I know you said you
I grew up in Riverside, which is about an hour and a half east of here. Browntown. We used to call it Browntown because it was like brown people, brown dirt, brown smog. But that was our land. And then I went to school in San Diego for college, and then I've been in LA now for over 20 years at this point.
Nice. Yeah. Did you go to like USD or one of?
I went to UC San Diego.
UC San Diego, nice. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I went to UC Davis up north.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Were you're a ball player?
I played lacrosse in college, actually.
Okay, yeah.
And we actually we came down and did a few SoCal tournaments every year and played like LMU, and I think we played UCSD. I'm not 100% sure.
I think we did have a good lacrosse team.
Yeah,
that was always a sport I was drawn to, also just because it looks so gnarly.
It's one of the alt sports for sure. Like, I remember like. My parents, and it's funny, I know my dad's on the stream, my mom probably is too, but growing up, my parents didn't want me to play football because it was too dangerous. And now, like, now I actually understand that and respect, like, less concussions is good. But I remember like, asking my parents if I could sign up for lacrosse, and they're like, yeah, of course. Like, because I don't know, they were thinking like, oh, this is like a prep school, like sports probably fine. And then like we go and like start buying all the pads. We're buying the helmet and the shoulder pads and the arm guards, like it's very similar to football in terms of like the gear you wear. And my mom's like, what sport? What is this? So that Yeah,
But it's a rugged sport.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Like you can
brutal.
get
And
you
then
can get
I
pretty
ended up
messed
playing
up.
goalie actually, which is brutal in a different way because the ball is like very hard. You know, it's like
Yeah.
compressed rubber. So that's you know, getting hit in the shins. That's like the one place you don't have pads. That's brutal. But yeah, it was cool.
The goalie, the person who designates him or herself as a goalie in any sport has always been really, really fascinating to me. Like
Definitely an outlier.
why
Yeah,
would anyone choose to do that?
yeah, it's definitely it's fun, man. I don't know, I like it, and I love LA too. I was just there couple weekends ago. I did a Joshua Tree trip, and
Nice.
on the front end of it, I
Yeah.
stayed with Gregory Siff, another one of the Tops artists.
Yep.
He's up kind of near Burbank.
Yep.
Stayed with him, and then went to Joshua Tree. And then when I came back, then I kind of hung out around Venice. I got lunch at the Whaler, and then just stayed like at a hotel near LAX, and then flew out the next day. But I love like the Venice, Santa Monica area. That's a vibe, man.
Yeah.
I lived out there for a short time. I drove by my old house, my old apartment, took a picture of it last week.
Wow. Do you think you'll ever come and live back here again?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'll be in California, but realistically, probably Northern California, which is where the rest of my family is. So, I mean, I love LA. I love a lot of places. I need a lot of studios everywhere, I guess, in the world.
Yeah, everywhere has its charm. There are a lot of drawbacks to LA. There's a lot of plasticity and fakeness out here with people, and it's hard to establish community. But if you can find your niche and your people, it's great. We have access to so much incredible nature. It's as strange as that sounds because we are in a city, but we're near the beach. Mm-hmm. You can drive to the snow. You can drive to the mountains. You can drive to the desert. Mm-hmm. Like Joshua Tree, like that's really a magical part of Southern California that a lot of tourists don't necessarily experience. And I'm like, it is like you're on Mars when you're out there. Yeah. And there's a lot of wonder out there. So I love the desert. That's awesome that you did that.
Yeah. Where I know you said that you surfed, and when I lived in LA, I really got into surfing. So I'm curious, what are your spots? Are you going up north to Malibu? You going down south?
Yeah,
I feel like you're a San Diego kid. You probably go south to like Trestles.
God, I wish. Yeah, I wish I could go to Trestles. I just don't have, as we are all very busy these days, I don't have a ton of time. And so the nearest break to me is the breakwater at Venice.
I love that spot. That's the spot. I love that.
That's the spot. Yeah, it's like a 7 minute drive for me. And I can bike there too. So I'm usually out there. It's gotten super congested, like all outdoor sports have been over the pandemic, right? Everyone stopped working and they're picking up pandemic sports. Mm-hmm. So it's even more congested than ever, but it's still fun. Santa Monica, Malibu, and then Manhattan, El Porto, which is down in Manhattan Beach.
Porto is great.
Yeah.
Speaking of Porto, do you know what's Robert's last name? He ran like Silicon Beach, LA. And like a Silicon Beach LA surf club. It's like a bunch of tech guys that also do the surf. What is Robert's last name? All right. Anyways, they had a beach house like at El Porto, like one of the houses.
Wow.
Right there.
Right there.
And so it was cool. Like we were just like in like a private Facebook group and just paid like a pretty nominal monthly fee. But like with part of paying that is like having access to the beach house, which was so sick.
What?
So like Porto was like where I would go if I had time. Otherwise, it was same. Man, I'd go to Breakwater because I lived at 15th and Santa Monica. For a while, and then I actually lived in Venice, like right by the Venice sign. There's like that circle, and then one of the spokes off the circle. I lived just like on one of those streets.
Yep.
And that was like a sublease for like 6 months. But then that was great because I could like walk to Porto in like 5 minutes, and I'm like feet in sand.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have to you don't even have to like bring keys, bring shoes. It's just all left at the house. It's like just your wetsuit and your board is so cool.
I love that you took advantage of the beach. So many people come here or they move here and they never go to the beach. And I'm like, you guys, you got to the finish line and you stopped. Like people travel from around the world to experience our beaches.
Yep.
And you live like 20 minutes. They're like, oh, there's a lot of traffic. And I'm like, I don't care if there's like an hour of traffic. You're at the beach. Like go to the beach. But LA's funny like that because it's so segmented in neighborhoods. When you're in your little community, you're like, oh, it just seems so far to drive half an hour to go to the other side. It's like, go, it's right there.
Yeah, I had a car, but I wouldn't go east of the 405 unless I really had to. Like I just wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. But I will go to the beach for sure. And like at the time I was living in LA, I was working in marketing, and like most of that work was like done remotely or like over Zoom. So like now like doing Zooms is not even weird for me. I've been working like this forever. But I wouldn't, if somebody like demanded to do a in-person meeting, I would make them come within like a radius that I could skateboard to. And I would only take a meeting if I could like longboard down to the co-working space or whatever. And that was it.
It's so true.
And like, I just love like, you know, like skating the boardwalk from basically from Santa Monica down to like the Whaler and back. Just so many like late night skate sessions. Like,
dude, Blake, you're gonna move back. You know what you need is you just need an LA house.
I do. Well, like I said, man, I need studios everywhere.
That's what it is. Yeah,
like
just
I walked from the Venice sign to like, we went to the skate park a little bit, like watched the skate park a little, and then we just walked up to the Whaler and back. And like, yeah, man, I miss the beach. I love the beach a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if I could ever. There's a lot of ills associated with living in LA. It is incredibly, insanely expensive. Just California in general, the taxes are out of control. And so there's a lot of incentives to leave. A lot of people have left over the last year, actually. And so, but my wife's like 3 generations deep in this neighborhood. I need to be near the water to surf every day, so I'm kind of stuck. But like, I would love to move somewhere else if I could still have access to surf somewhere. Right? Maybe Mexico. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, like Costa Rica, they have some good surfing.
Yeah. My friend, one of the girls who works with me, she's thinking of just buying a house down in Puerto Vallarta and just, you know, being out in Sayulita and surfing every day. And so it's just like, that sounds ideal.
Dude, that sounds amazing. How does that work? Like logistically, like, I don't even know how that works. Is it just like, if you have the money, they'll sell you a house and she's like, you can buy super sick house for like under $100,000, like a sick house near the beach in Mexico. As far as like citizenship and everything, I'm not the expert on that, but and that's why this is not legal advice.
For entertainment purposes only. This podcast, please don't take any of my advice, but it's like those kinds of concepts and ideas I think were really bizarre and alien 10 years ago, but especially the last year has shown us that we can do our work anywhere. We can have our meetings anywhere. We can do interviews like this anywhere in the world. So why not move to, you know, dry deserts? Why not move to like smaller communities that are more affordable to live in, where you can be a big fish in a small pond, live a simpler life, still make your money. Right? Like all these options are available. We've known that for like 20 years because of the internet. But the last year was just like, it really put it in our face of, you don't have to be in the city. Like you don't have to pay these exorbitant rents to work and to survive. Like do it somewhere else. The world is really big and grand. Yeah.
I lived, when I left LA, I've jumped around. I went to Arizona for a couple years. That was when I was working in marketing, and I got basically one of my clients was acquired and moved me from freelance in-house. And so I actually really liked Phoenix, Arizona as a city. It was cool. Like also super affordable, like great, like foodie scene, a lot of like craft breweries, you know, cool nightlife. But man, I was just like, I was missing surfing. And so I was thinking like, it was when like, do you remember like the Wave Garden, like those wave parks? I was like, I like legitimately was like trying to figure out like how I could like get a wave garden built in Arizona. Cause like with funny. I feel like I could be cool there.
Yeah. But, from what I understand, I've talked to some of the guys who own a few of those companies. It's $1 million. If you can somehow raise $1 million, you can. I mean, there doesn't
seem like that much money to me. Like, I mean, that seems like. I feel like
it's very doable. If you can get corporate sponsors involved. You can sell memberships. You know, there's like a way to reach that. It's a viable business. Crowdfunding. It's a viable business, and especially if you're working with a city, right? The city has a budget to, it's just like, hey, you want to keep kids
like
occupied?
Tourist attraction type of.
Yep.
Their like tourism board or whatever is like, oh, we need to invest in like making our city more of a destination.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So have a wave garden in the middle of a dry town, landlocked town somewhere.
Yeah, I think that would be super fun. Nice, man. Well, that's cool. I love hearing too that like the error, your story collecting cards. So when Topps reached out to you, was that an easy decision? Like when Topps reached out to me, like once I figured out that it was real, because at first I thought it I was doing prank. Once I thought it was real, I'm like, okay, I'll do this deal, right? Was it like that? Or you kind of like, because I mean the hundreds is killing it, man. And like I imagine that it's tough picking and choosing the projects that might distract you from your primary hustle.
Yeah. Really good point, valid point. So they initially approached us with the Topps 2020 project. And I think even before that, there was another iteration where they were kind of dabbling in it a little bit. But even in those, we were even in those conversations. And I had to keep postponing it because we plan out 2 years in advance. Like I can tell you what's coming out in on May 17th, 2022 at this point. So dude, everything is
okay. We're going to put a pin in that. I want to come back to that because I'm really curious how like something like that like affects like how COVID, right, can affect planning that far ahead. But we'll go to that in a second. Topps.
Yeah. So since we are so planned so far out, Topps came to us and was like, hey, you want to do this? And I was like, I really want to do this. This is a big part of my childhood and youth, but I can't fit it into my schedule. So we had to skip that 2020 portion of it. And then by the end of last year, they're like, hey, we're doing top 70. Do you want to get in? And, by that point, I was just like, I have to make this happen. It is so fun. I've been tracking the 2020 projects all along. Everyone I know that's been involved in it has been just more than, look, of course there's money in it. Everyone's trying to make money off of it. But beyond that, the community aspect of it is so fun and endearing to me that I was just like, these are my people. Like I want to just hang out with these collectors all the time, So I was just like, I want to get into it for that reason. But as far as the choices, why we decided to go with the error card thing, when I was looking at everybody's art, a lot of it just started kind of blending into each other, and I just didn't want to do. I was like, it's really easy. I'm an artist. It's really easy for me to go in and draw over the cards or do my signature thing. I was just like, I'm not really known as an artist. Like people aren't like, they go to you for your art. Like, you actually sell canvases. Like people don't go to me for that. They go to me for my apparel brand. They go to me for my storytelling, and they really go to me to get educated on things. Like there is a big piece of the hundreds, which is about education, where when I learn things, I like to share that information with our audience and our community. And so like, this is just another way for me to tell the Topps history, tell the card story, and get more of our community into cards. I was like, that's my overall objective. I just want to get this next generation of kids interested in cards. And I can't get them necessarily interested in sports or baseball because that's just not my lane. Like I can, that's the way a lot of people get into cards is because they're into baseball, they're into some kind of athletics. That's not my thing. I got into it because, again, of the errors, because of the flaws, because things were messed up, and that's what made it rare and limited. So I was just like, I can sell that to a kid, and I can get them interested in collecting cards if I do it that way. And so I was like, let me do it a completely different way, which is also just very me, to buck the system. Like if everyone is zigging, I'm going to zag. So I was just like, I'm going to make it so subtle and not explain it at first. I'm just going to put the card out there and see what the card community says about it. And like the people who were keen on errors and had that same kind of sensation when they were growing up and saw errors and were like, oh, this is interesting because it's wrong. I was like, those are the guys and girls that I think this project is really going to be meant for. And everyone else, they're either going to be on board with it or they're just going to hate it, And that's always been just how we've ran our designs, my art, my personal art, and just the brand. It's always been like, you're either in or you're out. It's very polarizing. The entire point of it is that the people who are like for it, like those are my community. I've always said I'm not for everybody. My intention as a business person and as a brand owner
is not to convert everyone in the world. I'm not trying to be pop or mass. I'm just trying to find my people. So I was just like, this is a quick way for me to find out who's on board, who's ride or die. And then, you know, everyone else who's not interested, there's other cards for them. Like, don't buy mine. Like, we don't need to be friends with each other. It's totally fine. Right. And so it did exactly that, you know, like the cards dropped and it got that response. You know, there was a contingent of people who were like, oh, this is cool. And it reminds me of hunting for errors growing up. And it's welling up a lot of this childhood nostalgia. And then there were people, I mean, there's this one dude who continuously like constantly keeps trolling me. And anytime I mention anywhere, he's like, this guy's a hack and he's making a mockery out of cards and this is my life. And I was just like, I love that guy. You know, he is so passionate about cards and it's such a part of his identity that I'm very triggering to him, just the fact that I exist. I was like, this is what I love about this community, is that people really, really take it seriously. Like, to me, it's very serious, you know, like I think and I breathe and I eat this stuff all day long, all types of collectibles. You know, I was just at here in LA, there's the bullpen, and we spent the entire Sunday there with my kids, you know, just like hanging out there and just like digging through cards. And, you know, there's UFC Prism packs that dropped today. So I'm like really considering buying like $1,000 box of UFC cards. Wow. So like, this is just, you know, like, I get it, you know, I'm there, but yeah, anyway, so I think that's probably the best explanation as to why I took that approach. There's even a larger story that will start playing out too. It's not just like the error cards thing. What I'm really doing is very much mirroring what I do even within my personal brand. I'm telling my entire youth experience and childhood experience with card collecting, where that ended. And so like the next round of them, I think the Will Clark one starts delving into this, but the card is really damaged. It looks like it's really damaged. And that just gets into, I just want people to remember what happened with those cards. Like, even though some of them, we kept them in cases and they were preserved and they're really special to us, a lot of them we also just carried around because they were like our best friends. And I wanted some of these cards to feel like you use them as a placeholder in your book, or you threw it in your spokes for your bike or whatever it was. But these cards, like I would take them to the restaurant and there'd be like ketchup on them because like my brother and I would be trading stats back and forth. And there's another chapter of this that's going to get into stats also, because my older brother, who when he was growing up, he's kind of like a nerdy dude. And he was super into sports, like super athletic, but he was also very much into the cards for the stats, right? So like we all know people who were into collecting cards because they were just like math people and were constantly like memorizing stats. That was not me, but that was my brother. And so so I'm telling all these different parts of what it was like to collect back then, where it was driven very much by money and like what a Beckett said, you know, that your card was worth, but it was also based on all these other weird little nuances that I don't think necessarily that might not exist today the same way. You still there, Blake? Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, my camera turns off after 30 minutes. That's awesome, man. I'm curious, have you and I'm sorry if I missed this, but are you doing autograph versions of your cards?
Yeah, I'm signing them all. So,
and where would people go to buy those?
So whenever Topps drops a card of ours, I think the last one was Lasorda. So Topps dropped Lasorda, and then about a week or two later, I will sign them from our side and then sell those through our website. So we kind of let Topps do its thing first. I want Topps, you know, I want put all the intention on them. Go buy the card from them, you know, and then you can buy the autos from us. And I don't know why, honestly, anyone would buy something signed by me. But these days, like the deeper I get into collectibles, I'm like, I get it. You know,
where do people buy those autograph cards?
They're on thehundreds.com, but they sell out really fast. So after they sell out within 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours. And so then they just come off the website. But we announce it, like if you're following along on our socials, we'll say like, okay, Bobby's signed Lasorda cards are now going up, and then we're broken up into gold and silver, and the way that a lot of other artists have been doing it.
Nice, that's awesome. So you have you said Will Clark next.
Will Clark is up next.
Nice.
Going along with the theme of like my childhood, since I was like 80s and 90s kid.
Yeah.
A lot of the athletes I selected were from that era, and they were the cards that weren't necessarily like the best cards of those players, but the ones that I collected and I had a relationship with. And so like, you know, some of the players, some of the athletes might be like, why did you choose that guy? But it's like a very personal thing to me. And I try to tell those stories in my Instagram.
Yeah. Awesome. NFTs, man. I want to get into that.
Oh my God.
We
have 4 hours.
Yeah. We got another motorcycle circled the block.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, man. I love seeing other artists that are on the bleeding edge of that. And, you know, whether it be like the NFTs, I mean, I think BitClout's hilarious, but yeah, NFT first, man. Let's, how did you kind of get into it? What has been your experience so far? And what are your, you know,
overall thoughts on it?
Yeah.
It's a great question. And I do love the question. It is probably the most compelling part of NFTs to me is the conversation. More than the trading, more than making money off of any of this, more than even making the art. I love the conversation, because I think what we're doing right now is we're really pushing our minds and our brains to think beyond what we've already known. You know, we're kind of setting new parameters for what's possible, not just in terms of art, but like in terms of any type of ownership creation. You know, we're essentially establishing our physical world in a metaverse. So everything that we have here in our real lives that's tangible in front of you, we can now replicate that or do it even better on the other side. And so like that opens up so many possibilities. But to start it off, I got into it back in December. My friend Trevor, this guy Skeet, who a lot of people know in the crypto community, Trevor, he had tweeted something, I think and looking back, and I think it was that Beeple auction in December, which I believe was the first like one that kind of made a lot of noise. And I was just like, what is this? So he calls me and he explains it. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, talk to D from Zora. D gets on a call with me and it breaks it down. And then I start going, okay, this is wild. And there's something there. And I think if that conversation had happened a year before, I wouldn't have been so open to it. But I think because of the pandemic, we've all gotten so much more accustomed and comfortable with everything happening online, our lives being immersed online, like having conversations like this online. I wasn't doing this in 2019. I wouldn't, I didn't do a lot of interviews like this. Right. And so more and more every day last year, I spent having an online reality, a digital life. And so if I'm spending that much time in the digital life, instead of buying, like there's like a Raymond Pettibon print behind me, right? So like instead of spending money on that, for my physical life, where maybe 3 strangers have been in this room for like the last 18 months, right? Only my kids and my wife come in here.
Yeah, no one's going to get to enjoy that art but you.
No one gets to see that. Yeah. But everyone watching this stream right now is going to see that in a digital form, right? Because we're behind a screen. So wouldn't it make just more sense to have the digital version of that? Like, why do I need the paper version of that? And you can't even tell if that's real. It could be a print or whatever it is. But if you have an NFT, then we can, put that up against the blockchain. We all know this. But anyways,
what's that Kanye down over your other shoulder?
Oh, I think that's a Shepherd Obama print.
Oh, sick.
That's awesome. That's actually the
yeah. That is the Obama. Sorry, I thought it was there was a Kanye one similar to that, but that's the OG.
This is the OG one. Do you remember when it was Progress?
Yeah, before it was Hope. They made him change it.
And Shep left his little logo on there. So
dude, that's sick that you have the original version.
Yeah, there's not many. I think there's really like a handful of those. Yeah, and I probably should do something with it. It's just
I was just actually given it's in the print drawer. A signed Shepard Fairey print by Gregory Siff when I was visiting him in LA. A few days ago. So generous. It's so fun, like with the other artists, like swapping art and.
Yeah, that is something really cool that you as an artist have access to. Because I buy art, I love supporting art and buying art, but in streetwear we trade clothes, but it's just like I don't need more clothes. Like I make clothes and I wear my own clothes. And so every day I get boxes of like sweats and jackets and hats, and I'm like, I wish I was an artist so I can do something with this.
Well, I'm predominantly an artist, and I get mailed T-shirts, hats. In fact, shout out to what is this company?
Yeah, what brand is that?
Shout out Residency for the San Francisco hat. Thank you guys.
That's such a sick little hand style there.
Yeah, they have all these kind of like alt logos of like San Francisco, LA.
That's
cool. It's called Residency. But yeah, man, I get so many like hats and T-shirts. People mail me hats and T-shirts all the time.
That's so
cool. And I
cool.
try and rep as many as I can, but like sometimes I get them faster than I can wear them.
Yeah. I do the same thing. I still send my gear. Kids send their brands and product to me, and I'm always sending my stuff. I'm going to send you a box too. It's my favorite thing to do. I'm just like, what's your size and address? And then people are just like, and then they wear it and they're like, oh my, I still get stoked seeing people wearing the clothes. And I've been doing this for like 18 years. I'm out there in the street and see just some kid skating by. It's just, nothing makes me happier than seeing a random teenager skateboarding,
rocking your brand,
rocking our logo,
so
rocking
cool.
The brand. It's like the best feeling. I'm like, yes, like I'm never going to get old.
You guys have done some pretty epic collabs. What is your favorite one?
Wow. That answer also changes on the daily. I loved we've worked now 3 times with Jim Davis and Garfield. And so just, again, being an 80s and 90s kid, I learned how to draw by reading Garfield comics. I always say I learned how to draw from Garfield. I learned how to write and tell stories through Bill Watterson and Calvin and Hobbes. Mm-hmm. So working with Garfield has always been a dream just because he is a true collaborator. He really lets us work with his property. He works with us. He has a lot of input. That's a true collaboration. And I always come out of it being a bigger fan, which, as you know, most collaborations you walk away going like, I kind of hate that person now.
Yeah. Be like, all right, I'm done with that person for a while. That's great. I love it. I love Garfield too. That's awesome.
Yeah, Garfield. I don't know. We do hundreds of them a year. So I feel like sometimes I forget like how important certain ones were to me. Oh, we just came off of the Hundreds and Kevin Smith. And my 90s, my teenage years were dominated by really obsessive with Kevin Smith films. Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma. Chasing Amy was my favorite, still one of my favorite movies, but especially in my teenage years, it was my number one movie. I watched it like 1,000 times. And so Kevin and I have been talking about doing something together for like over 10 years. And it just wasn't ever really right more for him. I think he was at an interesting place with his relationship with his films. And, he was kind of like, I don't want to be known as Silent Bob forever. Like, I kind of want to also be a famous director. And he is, and like a podcast guy. And he did that. And then he circled back around to like, you know what? I love this. And, like, I love the View Askew universe. And I love Jay and Silent Bob. And I asked again this time last year, and Hollywood was kind of shut down. And he's like, I'm not doing anything. So let's do it. And he was great, man. And like the one caveat, I was just like, can we make a film? Like I want to write a Kevin Smith film, just a short. And we did that. And we're in, there's a few of us that are in it. And he loved it. He directed it. And we shot it outside of our store. And now it's the prequel to Clerks 3, which he's starting to shoot. But he's using it as part of like canon. That's
insane.
Yeah, it's like
You're
canon.
in the Clerks universe.
I'm in the universe.
That's
like
amazing.
He's like I guess in Captain Marvel they make a Mallrats reference, and he was just like, for me that was full circle. Like I'm grew up reading Marvel,
I made it,
and I'm in the story, and he's like, I want to do that for you, and so I think I haven't even fully processed how wonderful that is to have that.
Yeah, hell yeah, that's awesome. Okay, man, I have so many questions. Okay, let's stick with the hundreds for a second, and then we're going to pivot and we're going to go NFTs a little harder. With the hundreds now, you guys have your drop for March 17th, 2022 planned or whatever.
Sure.
You have it all planned out. So like, what does your day-to-day look like with regards to that brand?
We are really working on projects that are a year and a half out. And year and a half, sometimes 2 years out. We did a project there's been a couple of projects, one with Epitaph Records. So those were a lot of punk bands I listened to growing up. That's like Pennywise, Rancid, all those guys. But that project took 12 years. I did a project with Disney
with for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That took over 11, 12 years because
So like, what do you do for 12 years?
Just constant negotiations, working on designs, submitting them for approval, them getting back to you 3 months later saying, change everything again. We need you to prototype this out and like samples. And then they're like, no, we want a different fabric. And then, and life just keeps going. Like, because a lot of it has to do with production, just takes a long time, especially if you're doing it overseas. It can take months and months. Mm-hmm. Approvals take a really long time around collaborations because, everyone is busy. And so you have the other party considering the work and putting their input onto it. But there's just many reasons why these things just get drawn out. There's other factors that are beyond anyone's control, which are just like climate issues, like sometimes all of the cotton crop withers away because of a famine somewhere in the world. And so cotton prices go up. And then
or a tanker gets stuck in the middle of like the Panama Canal.
Or whatever, like, get stuck in the Suez.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that was
a great example of this. Is my parents live in Huntington Beach, and over the winter break we were down there, and we were sitting on the beach. My kids and I have an 8 and 11-year-old, 2 boys, and they were like, "Daddy, look at all these ships! Like all of the cargo ships were like." Like there was miles and miles long. There's like 100 of them just stuck out at sea. And they're like, what are all these ships? I was just like, that's Daddy's clothes that was supposed to be dropped off 3 months ago those are like our jeans that are just sitting out there because of, again, pandemic problems. But all the ports were backed up. And so that, lands down to the customer who's just like, where's my clothes? Or like stores are like, where's our product? And it's like, it's sitting out there right in front of Huntington Beach every day. Yeah. But those are things you can't account for. There's a lot of variables that go into clothing production. And, to try to mitigate a lot of those risks and a lot of that damage, we try to do as much in-house production as possible. We load up on blanks. If it's like t-shirts and hoodies, like we keep those as blanks. We own our print shop. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, there were things that happened last year that were just completely missed opportunities because we got screwed by the pandemic. And I can't complain too much. In fact, I'm really not in no place to complain because, like, for the most part, we had figured a lot of the problems out. But I know a lot of people got nailed pretty hard. Yeah.
I bet, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Like, so last year was, I did the Tops 2020 stuff, and that was like kicked off basically right when the pandemic kicked off, where like I thought like the launch of it got delayed a month because for a while in New York, like we were being told like everybody self-quarantine for 14 days, like this is going to blow over. And the crazy thing is like if everyone did, then that would have happened.
Yeah, it probably really would have blown over.
Yeah, I mean, it would have, it would have been a lot different, but people can't stay in, they can't be locked inside like that.
We're Americans.
Like, I thought the project might get like postponed indefinitely. Yeah. It kicked off. And then like, because there was no sports, that whole project took on a crazy trajectory, with print runs and with demand because there was no sports. And like for a short time, like our cards were the only baseball related thing that people could like consume content wise.
Wow.
So it was
I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So like this time last year, I guess we were still definitely on this meteoric rise. I mean, we were hitting like print runs went nuts for like a short time where like, the Keith Shore, Ken Griffey did 99,000. My Mike Trout did 76,000 copies. And there was a week, like there was one peak week where like every single artist that dropped that week had a print run of like 40,000 and up. Which is like, what that means in royalties. It's a nice little payday for a single card. And like, I mean, that was freaking wild, man. But it's funny because now like even at the time I was so in it that I didn't understand it. Couldn't see the bubble. Now that
You're like, this is great. I'm a card guy.
Yeah. Well, now that I experienced that, I mean, I've already like kind of seen this happening with NFTs of like, we've already got through this crazy hype cycle where like, everybody was buying anything that was an NFT. People would buy because they're like, this is going to go up in money tomorrow. Like this is going to double in money tomorrow. And obviously that's just not how the market for any kind of good usually works.
No. No, not sustainable at all.
Mhm.
I never thought about that's why. Well, of course, but that makes sense why sports cards blew up last year. Did
Yeah.
so well.
Yeah. Well, it's still, I
Uh,
mean, it's good. It's a lot this year. It's a lot of artists. I think it's a little bit, I'm finding it's a little harder to develop kind of this personal feeling connection with some of the artists. And obviously, you know, the ones that I get to talk to, it's a lot easier. But like just in general, like looking at 50 other artists' work every single day on Tops, it's hard to like, it's so long and so many pieces in between like each of your pieces that I don't really like. Last time, every week and a half, 2 weeks, we had a drop and there was only 20 artists. So like you would drop and then like be dropping again very soon. So like I really felt like last year that was good pacing where like I started to get to know the artist. So by the time we were on 3 or 4 cards in, every single card that comes out, I'm like, oh, cool, that's Andrew Thiel. Oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's so-and-so. I'm not there yet this year where I can't recognize a lot of the cards yet. And I hope by the time it ends, I can, but it's.
But I don't think it's going to be possible. I'm getting a little echo. Is there like a feedback?
Let's see. I could put in headphones.
Okay.
Sorry, 1 second.
No worries.
Let's try this. I've been setting up. This is like a streaming PC, but it's new and all the hardware is new, and I'm just like pulling my hair out. Well, actually, I don't have any hair. If I had hair, I'd be pulling it out, trying to set this shit up because it's driving me crazy. All right, let's see which device. That's headphones. Okay, here. Then if I go audio, speaker,
test.
Talk real quick.
Testing.
Let's
Bobby.
see.
I sound better. I mean, I don't hear my echo anymore, so. And then you're muted there. There you go. Muted. Unmute. 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 Can't hear you. You're muted. Oh, there you go. Are you back? No. God, now I still can't hear you. I thought I'd be able to hear you now. I can't hear you. What happened? Oh, no. I messed it all up. Let's see here.
I think I can hear you again.
I can hear. Now I can hear you.
Is there an echo again, though?
Testing. No, we're good.
All right.
So I don't know what
setup we had before, but anyways.
Yeah, it just
man,
all of a sudden
sometimes
started
drives me crazy.
What else? Yeah, so I didn't realize because I know some artists that were involved last year that had a completely different experience. I was hoping for an experience that aligned more with that. I also heard like one of my friends was just like, "Oh, I bought a house." And I was just like, "Oh," she's like, "Yeah, I bought my first house," and she's like,
Sophia Chang.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly, Sophia.
So did Gregory Siff.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Royalties and autos, bro. They were huge last year.
I love it. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah,
so,
I spent most of my money on art. I have a sick art collection.
But I think there's something to be said around these hype cycles and the froth, and it's really important to try to keep a level head through it all because these market swings are just going to become more and more volatile, and they're going to happen all the time around the most obscure objects, right? Like, have you been noticing what's been going on in the used cars market?
No.
Like, used cars are a thing. Like that has its
flipping cars.
Yes.
Interesting.
Like that's the same. Like there are people who are collecting squishmallows. You know what squishmallows are? They're like these puffy plush dolls that kids have. They sell them at like Targets and Walmarts, but they're huge. They're like pillows, but there's only so many that can fit on a rack. So that means rarity. and they come out with different versions of them so that people flip.
Like they're giant Beanie Babies.
They're giant Beanie Babies.
Dude, I love Beanie Babies.
Dude, look into Squishmallows.
Okay.
You're going to love it. They're hilarious. But there's now, it's happening with everything. Cacti, all my friends who are into plants and cacti, that's a thing. Obviously, I come from streetwear and sneakers, so this is very all familiar territory to us. But if you're into anything like books, I know like vintage books have become a thing.
My dad's a huge book collector.
Yeah. So there's a lot of money floating around out there, and there's going to be these really sensational, hyped up swings that happen in the marketplace. And it's cool, but like, don't lose your head because, you know, you're probably going to be too late. Most of the stories you're hearing are anecdotal, you know, and if you're in it for the right intentions, which is for me, that always comes down to you're in it for the community and the culture. You're genuinely having fun in the space. You know, like you want to help other people win, which is what I feel like the card community has been like, and especially the NFT community. Then I think there's mileage there. But the ones who are kind of coming into opportunists or coming in for a cash grab, and that's been very apparent with NFTs. Like, sure, okay, fine, you'll make $5,000, you'll make 10, 50 grand, like go have fun doing that. But it's like, if you put that effort into doing something you really loved, I promise you'll make more money. You know, like it's just not worth it.
Of course. So, and you'll have more fun.
You'll have more fun, you know? And I tell people that because everyone's like, oh, you're making a lot of money in NFTs. And I'm like, yeah, I've made some like nominal money, but you know what I do for a living is I make clothing. Like I actually can, like, I have a job. Like I don't do it for the money, you know, like sometimes the money comes and sometimes I lose money, but it's never been about that. It's about the art and supporting young artists who are really trying to sustain out here. But, you know, I think I don't even think I finished answering the NFT question earlier. My thoughts on it moving to the future, I think it's going to, you know, there's a lot more opportunity there, the way that we're going to look at NFTs over the, you know, in 6 months from now, 6 years from now, that the artists, like they often do, helped us translate a really difficult and complex subject and made it simplified, right? That's what artists do with the world. And that's why even when artists move into neighborhoods and they gentrify a neighborhood, it's just like, I can't access that neighborhood. And artists are like, hold on, we'll make it understandable for you. And they come in and they beautify it and then they, you know, make it so that you can access. That's what artists did with NFTs. But it's like the NFT, the technology and what we're doing here, the rules that people are establishing here, like we're setting up a framework for a completely different reality and lifestyle that I think is going to be the infrastructure for our lives for like the next, you know, lifetime, in my opinion. I'm like fully radicalized crypto guy, but I'm all about the DeFi, decentralization.
I love that. Me too, man. I'm curious to hear, like within the NFT space as a whole, like what are you most excited about? And then on the flip side of that, I want to hear like what bothers you the most about what's happening with NFTs now. And I have like my own thoughts, but it's always interesting to hear like perspective.
Yeah. Well, what I'm most excited about, I just love seeing the applications used for different things like DAOs and fractionalized NFTs are going to be really interesting. Setting up different types of companies or types of networks on NFTs and on the blockchain, I think are going to be cool. Just the smart contracts, the social token aspect of NFTs, I think are really going to be the future. We have been working on something because everyone's just like, what are you guys doing? Like you always talk about NFTs, but you don't really do much. Like we issue like our t-shirt graphics as NFTs and do that. But we've been working on a project since February, which is very much aligned with like punks, but where you can actually use the punks within our community around the bombs. And so I think that's the first time I've said that out loud to anyone outside of our organization. But
I love it. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I gave you a little bit of a taste there, but that is gonna, you know, we're gamifying these things, like literally, you know, talking about NFTs and video games like 2 years out. These things are going to evolve. they're not going to be static punks. But that is something that like I think is going to be very useful and have a real world application. I think it's very much intended for my community. It's not for an opportunist and an NFT person who's just in it for the moment. They're not going to understand it. It's not going to be appealing to them because they're going to be like, why would I even want this? I'm like, it's not for you. It's again for like our community, and I want them to use it. So all of those applications I think are really exciting. I think NFTs just getting a lot of people onboarding into crypto, and opening up crypto wallets for the first time in their lives. Like that's really interesting to me. Like, to be honest, like that's a huge motivator for why I even want people to get into NFTs. Cause I'm like, crypto. We've been like heavily with crypto since 2017, 2016. And we've been accepting crypto on our website ever since then. But I couldn't figure out a way to really move our audience and our community into it until NFT started. And I was just like, okay, if you're not going to invest because you're just like, look, that's like a tech douchey bro-y thing, how about supporting artists? And it's like, now you're going to trade a little bit. Oh, I have a little bit of crypto. Oh, I have some Ethereum and it's going up. And I'm like, okay, cool. We did it. We got you onboarded. Congratulations. We did it. So that to me is the most exciting part. Yeah. The least appealing, the least interesting part, I'm somewhat annoyed by people who are just like, every day someone hits me up who's just like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this because I need to make like a quick buck, like literally saying that out loud. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, throw your money in and hopefully it goes to the right person. But aside from like, that can be a little bit annoying. All the celebrity stuff for people who aren't really a part of the community or not trying to contribute to the community can be a little bit annoying. I think the idea of walled garden marketplaces in general does not seem to make a lot of sense with the idea of decentralization.
Like a Nifty gateway.
Like Nifty, like Grifty, like I've been calling it the last 24 hours.
Yeah, and man, I want to talk about that.
We should definitely talk about that. I think that was, look, Nifty was like obviously the leader very early on and just smart to do what they do in the Winklevi are brilliant minds. And even, the way that Griffin and his brother and Tommy and these guys set it up, like we were like fully supportive and on board and big upping them for everything they were doing. And I think it brought a lot of attention to the NFT space. Like you have to acknowledge that they had a lot of sensational drops that attracted a lot of attention. And a few months ago, we started talking to them about doing a project on Nifty. And we had an initial date of my birthday, and I was like, I can't do that because we're throwing a food festival that day. So we pushed it to May 8th. And so we've just been working on this project, and no one has really known what it is because, like, honestly, I just wanted it to be a big surprise. But we were making an animated cartoon around our characters, around our bombs. It was going to be the first time anyone heard him speak or, see him move for the first time. And the idea was to continue rolling these out on Nifty or other marketplaces. And again, inspired by Garfield. I grew up reading Garfield comics. And when Garfield and Friends, the Saturday morning cartoon dropped, to hear his voice for the first time was like a big part of my childhood. And so I was just like, for 18 years, Annenbaum hasn't spoken. I even asked my staff, I was like, what does his voice sound like? And everyone's just like, he doesn't have a voice, or like, I think he sounds like this. And I was like, this is going to be noisy within our community. And so we've been working on this animation, and all the way up until a week ago, they checked in with us and they were like, hey, you guys all set? You need to turn it in by X amount of time. And so they didn't say anything then. But I'm a part of some other groups, some WhatsApp groups and Discords and stuff, and had been hearing that they had been canceling drops. And someone who actually shared the same drop as us, a May 8th drop, was like, man, they just clipped my drop. I can't believe they did it to me too. And I was just like, man, I really hope they don't do that. That it just had a call with them, and they were like, well, no, it's so late. That would be really messed up to do that to you at this late in the game. And so they did that, and the thing that I think was like most upsetting to me, I mean, number one, we put in the time and the money to do this, and our teams just kind of wasted a lot of energy on it, which I don't consider waste because I'm glad we did it. But I'm also like, dude, we had a call like a week ago, like you never said anything. And then also Griffin, you or Tommy, who I have the relationship with, you guys didn't tell me your stuff. You just sent some random employee to come and
get on a nervous Zoom with me and be like, excuse me, we're gonna and I'm like, what's going on? We're gonna the marketplace is changing, so we're gonna cut your release.
Damn, I'm sorry, man.
And I mean,
I think
super
so.
strange.
A couple. I mean, shit, man. And I know, like, I don't know if you have a hard cutoff at 6:30.
Yeah,
but
I think by 6:40 at 6:45 I have to get on a call. But
okay.
we have like
no
8
problem.
minutes. Yeah.
All right, because there's a lot to unpack here that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
I also had a NFT drop go awry.
Yes.
I did all of the art myself, and my 3D animator Lorenzo that I work with did all of this art for Damian Lillard to do this big drop. We made 12 different artworks, worked on it for 2 months, and that one, like, we're doing a lot of different partnerships with athletes. I have one out now with Terrell Owens that's going as well as it can given kind of the market's climate right now.
Sure.
But this Damian Lillard one was managed by a third party for the tech side of things. And I kept saying, like, yo, let me look at everything before we mint it. Let me get a little oversight. Let me help. Because I also have tech people, like, we can help with the smart contract. And they were all like, no, you're hired for the art. You're getting paid for the art. You just do the art. And I did it. And the drop, like, they dropped it. They minted the wrong art. They minted old art that wasn't approved by the NBA, because we had to go through the NBA to get approval. So I had to, like, do addition things. They minted the wrong art. Their open edition messed up where, like, it wasn't able to be purchased. And like it was a total shit show, but they were also handling the marketing, and the marketing was so bad that, like, nobody knows that the drop even happened and was a failure.
Oh my God.
So while it's cool, like, I mean, while I, like, it sucks to not get your art out there, and, like, your experience, that's hopefully, like, you can salvage it and turn that art into drop it somewhere else yourself. But, like, I can't do anything with this art. I can't do it. Like, I'm going to do nothing except for just, like, write a long Decrypt article about, like, we actually have, like, the title called The Beautiful Disaster, because it was like there were so many red flags along the way where, like, internally as a team, we're like, are we sure this drop, like, do we trust that this team is capable?
Yeah.
No. Well, the art's done, so let's roll the dice. Like, we have all of this documented. It's really interesting. And yeah, so I feel your pain on, like, doing all the artwork and then not getting it out into the world. It's a tough pill to swallow.
It's we are casualties of the froth, right? Because this is gonna happen. So much is falling through the cracks. I don't know if this is verified, but I've also heard, ever since I complained online about what Nifty had done with their drop, so many people have come forward and told me different stories. I've heard that they've cut 40% of their drops. I've heard that.
I do think. I mean, I think that Nifty Gateway is single-handedly oversaturating the NFT market. Like, I get, I get an email about the morning drop, and then the afternoon drop, and then the nighttime drop, and it's like, it's a lot. And, like, I don't necessarily love the format of, let's do, like, open editions for 15 minutes or whatever and just see how many sell, because then, like, from a buyer's perspective, unless I, like, know that the drop is coming and I've done the research ahead of time, like, most Nifty drops I jump on, I'm, like, scrambling, like, for 15 minutes to be like, okay, I got to research this artist. Is this should I buy this? And that's like a stressful buying situation.
Yeah.
I'd rather like sell NFTs like I do, like, on Super Rare or wherever, where, like, it's just there and people can research it, and then they can bid whatever they think is fair. And it's not like this high pressure sales situation. And Nifty has always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Now, Andy will be the first to point out that, like, if Nifty came to me and was like, let's do a drop, I would probably say, okay. But
of course,
that's the capitalist, I guess. So
if they came to me right now and they were like, "Hey, never mind, you're back on," I'd be like, "Zoink, remove all the tweets. Nifty is the best. Nifty is Nifty to me." But look, in their defense, they are entirely underwater. That was made clear months ago. We had a call with Griffin, and the first thing I was just like, "How are you doing?" And he's just like, "Man," I was just like, "No human can compete." I was like, if I can't sleep at night because so many people are hitting me up for advice, I can only imagine what's happening with you also, where you have a short window of time, because this is a bubble, to make the money that can potentially set you for life or build your company. So I get it. Every single marketplace owner I talk to, right? We all know the same people. every single one of these people, I'm like, how are you doing? And they're just like, I haven't slept in months, and I'm buckling. You know, we don't have the infrastructure. We can't hire fast enough. We don't know what to do. And they're trying to keep this glossy front. Like some of these marketplaces are being built as you watch them. Yeah. Like every day you go back to the end, you're like, oh, they put a button here. Oh, this works now. And it's moving so fast, which is the nature of crypto. This happened in 2017. The hype always precedes the technology. The bubble bursts, and then the technology catches up when no one's looking anymore. Then it comes back again in another wave, and that's going to happen. My qualm with the whole thing was, why did you guys tell me this a week out? Like you were just talking to me last week. At what point did you decide, never mind, we don't want to move forward with you? That part was annoying. I wish they had told me themselves instead of like sending one of their people to tell me. But aside from all that, like, again, first world problems to complain about. There are much more talented artists that I think are more deserving of that time. And so I just hope when May 8th comes, our date, I go on Nifty, it's not like, you know,
something lame in your place.
Something lame, which it probably will be. But,
so do you think they're canceling the drop to slot in someone else?
I think so. I don't know for sure, but that would make sense. You know, I don't know why. I really don't know why.
That sucks, man. That's lame.
Yeah. I don't know why they would have clipped us. I still don't really understand why they clipped us. But look, there are people who love me and love the hundreds, and there are people who really hate me, which is how we started this conversation. And all it takes is someone on the inside to be like, man, fuck that guy, you know? Right. And so that's what it is, and not for everybody. So if it didn't work there, the one really cool, amazing thing that happened in the wake of that is every single marketplace that exists on the planet hit me up yesterday.
Be like, we'll take your traffic, bro. Yes. We'll take your traffic.
They're like, come here, please. Yeah. Like, so literally,
which one is whining and dining you the best? Where are you going?
No one is necessarily whining and dining like in the literal sense, but I'm really close with the Zora guys. But Foundation has always done I think in the NFT marketplace of the marketplaces, Foundation has always done the best job with community. And those guys are great. And they reached out immediately, and they're like, hey, I'm already on Foundation. And they're like, what can we do to help? You know, and no one's trying to like steal from Nifty or talk shit. Like no one even was interested in doing that. You know, Donnie from Bitsky hit me up. He was just like, hey, you good? You know, like if you need help, you know, I got you. It was just more like from a community standpoint. I think Nifty could use that in the long run, you know, work better with the community because they have kind of like a weird name out there right now, leaving kind of a bad taste. But I think, you know, so we're really rooting for marketplaces like Zora, Bitsky, Foundation. Like these are the ones that I think spiritually I would love to see them go really, really far.
Yeah. I love it, man. All right. Well, I know you got a call coming up. This has been amazing. You're welcome back anytime. Anytime you're in New York, come by.
Yeah.
When I'm in LA, I'll let you know. We go surfing.
Let's go surf.
But yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it. Where's the best place for people to follow you?
Just Bobby Hundreds across everything, Twitter, Instagram, and thehundreds.com is where we sell our clothes.
Yeah. And that's where the autos drop.
That's where the autos drop. Yeah.
And so if people want, like, I mean, I know intimately the group of people that show up here are usually the type of people that are interested in those type of autos. So if they want to keep track of when the drops are going to happen, is that something that would be announced ahead of time on your Instagram or Twitter or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. You just have to follow. And our newsletter is probably the way to stay most ahead of it. And there's an app you can download. It's our app, and those announce the drops as they happen. So those all work. Sweet. I go into the top. There's a Tops Discord for 70, which you know about. So like I also sit in there when we're about to drop something. Once in a while, I'll poke my head in, just say hi to everyone. I love that group, by the way. They're like
I've been getting into Discord now with the crypto stuff, but I haven't done a lot of Tops stuff in Discord. I should check that out.
Dude, jump into that. I'll send it to you. Oh my God, they're gonna freak out if you jump in there.
I would love that. Yeah, send me the link. And then also, if there are any Discords you recommend, even for like listening, like finger on the pulse of crypto stuff, I would love to just be a fly on the wall. But any recommendations you have is great.
Will do.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it. Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone, for coming a little early. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Stay awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Sweet. All right, guys. So thank you guys for showing up early. Like I said, I am going to take a little bit of a break. It's 9:42. I am going to come back and stream at 10:23. If any of you guys want to jump back on, what we are doing tonight is we have these. Oh, I forgot this. Like, doesn't. Okay. We have those Buster Autos, which we just signed. Right now, it is password protected. If you want the password for the Busters, it's same as Acuna. There's only 11 numbered ones. So 1 gold, 10 silver, and then some black, unnumbered. So yeah, I'll be back at 10:23. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Stay awesome and continue to stay awesome for the next 30 minutes or so. And then I'll see you again. And then we'll keep staying awesome. All right.